Well, we met online, and then we also found out that we have a special bond. We are both Keystone Technology innovators, and we were both able to go to the KTI Summit. I'm the class of 2017. She's class of 2018, and we both know somebody who was in the class of 2019. So, I mean, we have such great connections. Chris, thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. I am so excited to share some knowledge with the future generation of teachers today. So thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. All right, Chris, take it away.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me today. I'm so glad to be here with you. As Sam said, I am Christina Ortega. I am currently a classroom teacher and also a technology facilitator for my school in the Central Dauphin School District, which is in central Pennsylvania. I have been a classroom teacher for going on 18 years. So I bring to you some of the key things that I've learned along my way. So first and foremost, I don't mean to scare you, but I'll never forget the first time I walked into my very first classroom, and I was an absolute deer in headlights, just as my Bitmoji picture is, because I know that you've been working very hard over these years, learning about the science and the art of teaching. And while you have such amazing head knowledge about practices and psychology and even the sociology, most of what you're going to learn about becoming an effective teacher is going to come from your classroom experience. And that was a huge reality check for me when I first started becoming a teacher, and also as I have coached teachers along the way that I have met. So your experience is going to be your greatest teacher. So while I don't mean to frighten you, but I want to inspire you to know that do the best that you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. Some wise words from the Dr. Maya Angelou. So that is even something for myself I even embrace too. You do the best that you can with the tools that you have. And as you learn more along the way, you adapt and change and grow. And that is what's so amazing about the field of teaching, is that you are constantly growing and learning and doing better along the way. Well, today I want to share with you just some key things that I want you to take along with you as you start your student teaching and start your teaching careers. I want you to go into your classrooms with the flow, F-L-O-W, flow. Now, most people think that going with the flow means just winging it and just doing whatever you want. But in these terms, flow is actually being very thoughtful and mindful of the things that you're doing and choosing to do with your learners. So today I just wanted to share you the acronym FLOW and how it can be very helpful for you and your learners as you go on your learning journey together. The F in FLOW stands for giving students a fair advantage and frequent feedback. L means going into your classrooms with a lead and learn mindset. O stands for walking in with optimism and empathy. Last, W, I want you to think about and reflect and choose work with what works for you and your students. So I'm going to dive into these key areas with you during our time together. First, let's talk about having a fair advantage. Your learners are so excited to have you to be their teacher and their student teacher. Kids love their grown-ups and they want to please you. And so the best thing that you can do is give them a fair advantage for them to be successful in their academics and even with classroom procedures. By giving them a fair advantage, everybody knows the expectation. Everybody knows the goal that they are working towards. So here are some key things that you can do to give your students a fair advantage. The first part is have clear expectations. What does it look like, sound like? Literally. Me as a classroom teacher, during the first few weeks of school, our main 4 school rules are be respectful, responsible, safe, and prepared. As teachers, we cannot assume that all students know. So we need to be explicit in the expectations of how it should look and how it should sound. Along with that, offer frequent modeling. You model for them how things should look and sound. Have your students model how things should look and how things should sound. That way, everyone is on the same page of what is expected, giving them that fair advantage. Also along the way, don't forget to include that student feedback. Having them model for you, so you're checking their understanding to see if they're all on the same page, if they all agree. While you're modeling and giving those clear expectations, provide them with frequent feedback. One thing that I had to work on along the way, oops, I kind of got ahead of myself, that I had to work on along the way is providing feedback as they're working towards the proficiency. Don't give out the assignment, have them work on it, and then provide them the feedback. Pause during the instruction or during the project and check and see how they're going along the way. You give them feedback or have a student give another student feedback. Something that I do a lot in my classes, I set a timer for 3 minutes, and I tell my students 3 minutes till a quick check. They know that a quick check means that we're going to check in to see the things that they are working on, and then myself or other students provide them with feedback. Are they on the right track, or do they have to adjust some things as they are working on their project or their assignment? Feedback will take you a long way and will also prevent the defeat if they've put in a lot of time and they have to redo something. Feedback is crucial and can be your best friend. The other part, the L part, going in with a lead and learn mindset. I have this graphic here called and showing you the difference between a boss and a leader. Even though it's taken from the business world, it greatly applies to the classroom as well. You can either be a boss teacher where you're just commanding students things to do, or you can be a leader teacher. You are in them with them. It's a process where you are leading, but you're also learning with your students together. Remember, as you're walking in, you are a learner just as much as a teacher. You know some things, but you do not know everything. And that is huge because students think that just because we're adults that we know everything, and that's not true. And that can model for them what a learner is. You are their example of a learner because you're learning how to be a teacher yourself. And the same goes for the content that you're teaching them as well. So ensure that you are modeling for them that, you know what, I'm learning too. I make mistakes. I'm sorry. Oh, let's try that again. I was unsure. Modeling that for your students is huge because if they see you doing it, they're going to adopt it too. And as we know, those are the keys of being a good learner, is knowing that you do not know everything. And if you do make a mistake, it's okay, but you get up and you try again. Another part of being a leader teacher is having cultural humility. While you are the adult in the classroom, you're also learning about your students. Some of you may be walking into very diverse classrooms. Some of you maybe walking into very homogeneous classrooms. No matter what, every student has their own story, has their own background, and getting to know them and knowing that your background and your culture is not king or queen, but knowing that their stories are just as important, and creating those important relationships to getting to know them will help you be a better leader for them. The next part to walk in with is with optimism and with empathy. You will never regret being optimistic with your students. And this was a hard lesson that I had to learn. I used to take missteps or perceived defiance as offensive. Like, how is this kid not listening to me? Why aren't they doing the homework assignments I give them? And I had to learn that most missteps and assignments and behavior usually come from misunderstanding or a signal that they may need help from you. And that was a huge thing that I had to learn, to look at a misstep as an opportunity to get down with that student and learn from them, what is your story? What is going on? How can I help you? So instead of being focused on who's doing it right, who's doing it wrong, if there is a misstep, well, show me what you mean. Tell me more. Which step are you missing? Use a misstep as an opportunity to learn together, to clear up the perception and be there and lead with them. Once again, a lot of these tie in together, but if you lead with optimism that they're making a mistake because of a misunderstanding or as a signal, sorry about that, my light just went out, your students will value you as the adult who really cares about them, and they will respond much more to you in that way. The last part of flow is the W, work with what works and be ready to adjust. I must say there have been many times, even in my veteran years, where an instructional strategy, instructional pacing, a digital tool, or even a lesson plan just does not work. That is okay. That is expected. So be prepared to adjust. You might be in the middle of a lesson and you're realizing this lesson or this strategy is confusing for my students. It's okay to stop and readjust. You might have a digital tool plan to use. It's not working. A lot of students are having trouble with it. It's okay to stop and readjust. That lesson plan that you spent hours planning and putting together is falling apart. It's not working. It's okay to stop and readjust. Remember, you are teaching children, someone's baby, whether they are big, like in high school, or the littles. They're someone else's child, and they deserve a chance just as you do too. And I've learned that when things aren't working, have that dialogue with your students. Boys and girls, I don't think that this is working. Let's try something else. That is an incredible model that you are showing them, that even as teachers, there are sometimes where we have to replan or readjust to make things work for them and things that are better. And those lessons are key and will take your students such a long way. So to wrap this up, the 4 things with going with the flow: F, giving your students the fair advantage and frequent feedback, giving them clear expectations, lots of modeling. Don't forget to have a lead and learn mindset. You are leading with your students and learning with them. You're not just the boss or the taskmaster giving them things to do. Choose optimism and empathy. Most of the missteps happen because of a misunderstanding or need of support. And by you getting down and understanding with them, you are building up that strong relationship with your students. And last, work with what works for you and your students. It's okay to readjust. It's okay to stop and readjust while you are working through a lesson, because you show your students that you are human and you are a learner just as much as you are a teacher. So it was brief, but those are my key takeaways as an experienced teacher to you. And how could you see that helping you as you go into your student teaching? And what questions do you have? Dr. Sam?
Yeah, so I just wanted to interrupt here. What is currently working for you? I know you're teaching, you have hybrid students, possibly you have students face to face. What is currently working for you? What are some tools or strategies, techniques? Lights are good.
Yep, the lights are finally on. I have a sensor in my classroom, and if there's no movement, the lights turn off. So
I was wondering if that was the case. Yes.
Yes, they paid the electric bill. All right. Well, in terms of instructional strategies, I know that direct instruction and interactive video have been my key strategies that have been the most helpful. We were on a hybrid schedule for the first couple of weeks of school, and actually starting tomorrow, we're going back to full in person, but our district is also providing a virtual program as well. So in terms of instructional strategies, definitely explicit direct instruction, just because there's been a big disruption in our schedules. So I know that that's been very helpful. I've been diving into the questioning strategy, teaching my students how to ask and answer questions while we read and comprehend and while we're solving our math problems, or even during content time. In terms of tech tools, definitely Nearpod has been a go-to because it has the self-pacing option, and that was very helpful when they had their virtual learning days to ensure that they hit each assignment for reading or even for math. Another favorite has been Edpuzzle because you can embed questions for them to answer as they watch the video. So definitely Nearpod, Edpuzzle have been my go-tos, but I have a bunch of other ones that we haven't dove into. Oh, and of course the Flipgrid. They love that because during our virtual days, that was our classroom platform to share our ideas and for students to hear each other because we were not in the same physical space at one time. So we use that as a virtual platform space for us to share and to give comments to one another.
Yeah, those three are fantastic. Flipgrid, Nearpod, and Edpuzzle, just for either traditional learning and for hybrid and virtual learning spaces too. Friends, if you have questions, please drop them in our questions box. You should have one over there on your GoToMeeting. Now, Chris, I know that you have lots of different classroom management strategies. You have some hand signals that you use with your learners. Could you describe some of that to our audience today?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I I'm a primary education teacher, so right now a lot of our comprehension is very literal and explicit. But as the school year progresses, we get more into the inferential comprehension and we have a lot more academic discussions. And during those times is when I ask students, as they're actively listening, do they want to build on someone else's idea? Do they want to stretch the topic even more? So those are just some hand motions that we use as well. We also rate our understanding with our hands. Are you a 0 or a 1, meaning I need to practice a little bit more? Are you a 2 or a 3? I'm kind of getting it. Or are you a 4 or a 5, meaning I'm feeling very confident and I can help somebody? So we use those hand motions for a variety of reasons, for discussions and also to rate our understanding on a content or a skill that we're talking about.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I love it. Now, Chris, you gave us a lots of I love the flow, and I love how it really flows with each other. That really
Yes.
goes so well. I know a big hurdle for some of our student teachers is classroom management. How do they start to practice having their own teaching voice? And by teaching voice, I don't mean like Charlie Brown teacher voice. I mean like how do you start to build your own teacher personality, your own teacher way of bringing students back to the large group or sending them out to small groups. So do you have any strategies to help with just developing that, yeah, that persona, that teaching voice? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I must say, finding your teacher voice may take time because you may see a lot of great models from your student teachers or from other teachers. Basically, that comes along the way with your experience, in terms of with signaling for large groups and coming back, I love my style is being very direct and explicit with my students so they know what is coming next. So if they're doing a project, I always have a timer not to be done, but a timer so they know what is coming next. And I always tell my students, if the timer is getting low, boys and girls, we have about 3 more minutes. That doesn't mean you have to be done, but just letting you know that we're transitioning into something else. I also use callbacks for understanding too. My favorite one that I'm using this year, I say, does everybody understand? And their callback is yes, queen, that we use for this year. Other callbacks during instruction that I've used in the past is I say macaroni and they say cheese, freeze, just so they know that while they're working, we need to pause for a second. I've even used, all right, friends, pause. And they know that pause means it's going to be a quick stop to maybe clarify something or ask questions or even some feedback that I'm about to give them. So for me, a lot of my teacher voice has come from helping my students progress through by giving them signals to anticipate like what is coming next. But your teacher voice and your teacher style is something that is just going to come along the way as you go through it. And it will be awkward. I'm telling you now, your first couple of years are going to be awkward. And have patience for yourself. Have a mentor that you look up to talk to about things along the way.
Absolutely. I love that idea of coming alongside a mentor, having someone mentor you throughout your first year or even first 2 years. You never know
Yes.
what's going to happen. And it's just a great person to have a conversation, a dialogue, get ideas back and forth, share resources. Absolutely. All right, friends, I want to thank you for your time today. Chris, how can we connect with you?
I'm definitely on Twitter. I don't know if my screen's still up, but
Yes,
I'm
it is.
at Cortega2468. That's my Twitter handle. And I also have a website, the classroomdigitaldiva.com, where I have my blog and my podcast. You can also find me on Instagram, where you can type in the Classroom Digital Diva. I'm also on Instagram as well. So I'm all over social media. So yes, definitely connect. I would love to hear about your journey. And I'm also here as a resource too, if you have questions along the way.
Christina, thank you so much. This was such an honor hearing from you. And friends, if you subscribe to the edumagic podcast, you got to subscribe to the Digital Diva podcast as well. She does an amazing job. And Christina, this was like a passion project, right? That just kind of snowballed into this is going to be something that we're going to do for a while now, right?
Absolutely. I actually started blogging in the summer of 2019, just because I had so many ideas and thoughts about teaching, because from being in it for a while, I just felt that, I need to speak my voice and start speaking to the next generation of teachers and the teachers that are in there now. And my podcast was birthed from the pandemic. We were shut down, and I just wanted to document how teachers were doing during the pandemic. And so the first, I want to say 9 episodes, I talked to different teachers from primary, high school, principal, Dr. Fisich. I even talked to you with how you were coping with this huge shift in our classrooms. And so ideas have just been coming. So other podcasts have been talking about instructional coaching, being culturally humble in your classroom. And I've taken a break just because it's been a whirlwind of a school year, even for me.
Yeah.
But there will be new episodes coming along the way.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, friends, next week we have Kiana Cole sharing about self-care for teachers. And friends, this is something I wish that I learned about whenever I was a future teacher, because I'm still working through that self-care thing. So I'll see you next week, 2 o'clock to 2:30 with Kiana Cole. You can follow her around Instagram at Kicking It with Key. All right, I'll see you next week. Thank you, Christina. This was amazing.
So
Bye.
Bye.